Okay, guys, are you ready? You good?
Okay, so just before I start, because I have cold, as you can probably tell, I may start coughing in the middle of your speeches, but I'm not trying to be rude. It's just I try not to, but then so I'll apologize in advance if I start coughing in the middle of your speech. Okay, so may I start? Okay, so good morning, ladies and gentlemen, honorable judges, and worthy opponents. Today I'm very pleased to be able to speak to you as the first speaker on the side of Affirmative to prove to you why this motion, Western democracies have a right to block social media during riots, must stand. So before I move on to our main constructive arguments, we'll first provide a model for a clear debate. So we're going to shut off or cut off access to social media websites, including texting, during violent riots. This means that once the riot starts and we start to see some violence or some weapons being used or like some people getting injured or even killed, we're going to shut off or cut down access to social media and texting websites. And this is for the two reasons. So first of all, I'm going to talk about why rights must be balanced with other social values, such as public safety. But also I'm going to move on and talk about how destructive effects of unrestricted social media is bad. So first of all, I'll explain to you why rights must be balanced with other social values, such as public safety. So first of all, rights are not absolute. As Western democracies, we do respect people's rights to express their opinions. We do respect people's right to demonstrate, and we do respect their rights to peaceful protest. However, when it comes to the fact that what they are doing is hurting others around them, which I'll move on and explain later, we think that rights cannot be absolute in order to protect people. For example, we do not let people yell fire in a crowded theater. Now, this may be a little bit of violation on their freedom of speech because we're not letting people say some things, but this is for the necessary reason of public control and public safety. Also, for example, we check ID or your passports at airport. Now, we are giving a part of our rights to privacy just for the fact of making sure that we are safe from terrorists or other attacks. And we think the same value and the same justification for these kind of acts, infringing a little bit on rights for public safety, must apply to this situation and to this motion. So public safety is important, of course. People's lives, properties, and injuries are more important than actually keeping people's rights to violent protest. Because, for example, we do not think it's life if everybody has to live in fear of what if there's a riot next door and then somebody just randomly breaks into my house, which is very possible with social media, which I'll move on and explain in my second contention. So we think, for example, if a person is dead or injured, or a person's property gets stolen, that is actually infringing on the people's right. Therefore, we think that rights must be balanced with other social values such as public safety because of these reasons. So not only that, but I'll also talk about the destructive effects of unrestricted social media. So unrestricted social media actually makes it harder for the police to control the riots. Because, for example, if there's a riot and then police put barricades up, and then let's say there is maybe one barricade that is down. Now, social media and texting allows one person that saw that to actually message 1,000 or 1,000,000 people to come to that one spot and just go and break open more shops without police noticing them. Because we think that is very harmful. And we see that unrestricted social media actually facilitates that kind of wrong and immoral act, which is why we must cut off access to social media websites during violent protests. So what happens if police gets overwhelmed and they panic because they cannot control the public and the mob? Well, they may use guns or more violence than they ever need to, which actually happens a lot because police doesn't know what to do. Let's say the mob is really uncontrollable. There's people throwing rocks at the police. Maybe there's people even shooting at the police. Then because unrestricted social media actually facilitates this kind of thing for letting people talk during violent riots and plan things together, this is actually harmful for the police to control. And when the police loses control, it can be tragic. Another way the police could lose control is, for example, let's talk about criminals and anarchists. So during violent riots, when people are so excited and so worked up, they're actually vulnerable to these kind of criminals and anarchists. Let's go break open that shop. Maybe that that shop has a lot of technologies will just go break open that shop and steal whatever stuff. And when people are excited and like worked up, they're more vulnerable to these things. And actually social media help these kind of criminals and anarchists lure these people to looting, because for example, let's say there's one anarchist that really wants to break open that shop. Now without social media, it will take him forever to actually get these people to work together to do that. But with social media, that person can just simply type one message and press send and talk to like 10 million people if he needs to. So this is another reason why we must shut down or block social media websites during violent protests. So I would like to take for an example. So I'm a Canadian. I would like to bring a local example. So in Vancouver, there was a riot after the Vancouver Canucks lost. Now I have no idea why people started rioting, but what happened was that there was one person that actually messaged people on Facebook that were in here, that were in Vancouver, to just come out and let's just loot that store. And actually there was a lot of stores that night that were broken into. There was like technology stores, there was jewelry store, had like gold and all those diamonds and all those expensive things. So we think that we must protect these people from doing this. And because we have to do that, we have to cut down social media, access to social media websites. Because like I have clearly explained, these kind of social media websites actually facilitates these kind of wrong and immoral acts. So what I will talk to you about today, first I provided you with a clear model that will cut down social media websites during violent protests. When we see violence and we see people getting hurt, we see people breaking into stores and property getting lost. Now I have also talked about why rights must be balanced with other social values such as public safety. Because when it comes to rights, absolute rights versus public safety, we think public safety is more important. And lastly, I've also talked about the destructive effects of social media, because social media makes it really hard for the police to control, and when the police loses control, bad effects such as like police overreacting can happen, which is harmful for everybody. So for these reasons, we think this motion must pass. Thank you. No.
Judges ready? Partner ready? In your side of the world, who has access to social media sites?
Like
Only the
status quo?
protesters or the government?
What do you mean? Everybody.
Does the government have access to social media?
Like government itself? Like people within the government
Yeah.
have access to social media?
Okay. And what do people do during riots?
They talk about it. And they use
They talk about
the riot.
stuff during riots?
They talk about things during riots. They message people during riots so they can go to one place
Okay.
and protest.
And how
even more and
chaotic
cause
are
more
riots?
It could be anything from a peaceful demonstration to millions of people getting killed.
Okay. If a baby is crying and his or her mom is just shutting the door and leaving the room, will the baby cry more badly?
First of all, I have no idea where you're going with this question. But second of all,
Just answer,
the baby
please.
might stop crying. Baby might cry even more. Who knows what'll happen? Depends on the
So
baby.
the baby might stop crying
Yeah.
if just his or
Okay,
her mom is ignoring him.
The mentality of babies is that they want attention. That's why they actually cry.
Okay.
So when they know that their mom's not gonna come, no
Okay.
matter how much they cry, they will probably stop crying. Or they might be actually crying in fear of something, in which case they'll still cry even more.
Which is more harmful, a government losing its own system of government, or a few buildings being ruined? Which is more harmful?
They're both harmful.
So you think that a democratic government losing its own system of government, which is democracy, is also harmful, right?
I have no idea how it's related to this motion because.
So do you think that a democratic government turning into an oppressive regime is harmful, or is it beneficial?
Oh, okay, I know where you're going with this, but I'm not going to answer that question because this motion is not the government turning into oppressive regimes. It's not like they're going to completely shut down
If we
internet
say
forever.
it is, would you answer the question?
What was the question again?
So if a democracy turns into a autocracy or an oppressive regime, is it a beneficial thing?
Of course not. We don't think oppressive regime is a beneficial
it's not,
thing.
Right?
Yeah.
Great. And how do they coordinate riots?
They use social media most of the time, at least in modern society.
Social media.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
how they coordinate riots. I mean, you could go door to door
doesn't-
and get people to protest with you, but that would take forever.
Did
That's
black people start getting treated like white people without a conflict?
First of all, black people aren't treated like
In the
white.
in the 1950s in the United States, they did have a conflict, right? They did revolt against the government,
Oh,
right?
okay, so I know where you're going with this, but why
So do you not believe that every change was made because of the conflict? that
No,
they
we don't
had?
think every change was made because of violent protests.
Can you
getting
give an
people killed.
example of a change that was made without a conflict?
Like Gandhi, he protested peacefully and he made a lot of change. We do not
Thank
think
you.
violence and riots is actually necessary.
Thank you for your speech. Before we continue, I'd like to go over the negative case before we move on to the affirmative case. So, my opponents are deciding to include protests in the category of riots, but there's a clear difference between a protest and a riot. People in Western democracies do have the right to protest, and because of this, the government does not have the right to take away that right. But if they choose to include that, then they cannot just focus on violent riots as their contentions if they do include to also focus on peaceful protest. Now moving on. First of all, it is hypocritical of democracies to cut off social media sites during riots. For example, as we can see in the Arab Springs, when these countries block their sites and shut down the internet so that their citizens could not access these social media sites to gather, then the United States went in there and they circumvented the internet because they said that it went against human rights. Well, this is hypocritical of Western democracies to do this in other countries but not uphold these own human rights in their own countries when the same situations are happening. Now moving on, the second contention is that it will worsen the situation by when Western democracies cut off the right to social media, they're worsening situations in the riots. Because people are rioting, they have a reason, and when the government cuts off the internet, it shows the legitimacy of this reason, and it angers the people even more. It shows them that yes, you do have a right to riot because the government now is trying to stop you from rioting, which shows that there is something that the government is trying to hide from you. So you do have a legitimate reason to riot, and not only that, they're stopping your way to riot. So the people in turn get even more angry and they will protest even further. So there will be more violence in these riots. Now moving on to my opponent's contentions, they said that, first of all, that rights are valued and they're balanced with public safety. But in many cases, public safety is used as an excuse in these cases of riots to control the people and then oppress them even further. We're not saying that democracies will go into oppressive regimes overnight, but by giving them this right, it sets the precedence that it's okay to take away human rights under the pretense of public safety. But since our opponents are also including peaceful protests, sometimes this public safety won't even be harmed. And their second contention is that it's unrestricted and makes it harder to control. But as they conceded in cross-examination, that the government and the people in the government, such as the police, they do have access to these social media sites, and by giving them this access, they're allowed to see, like for example, the example she used where protesters can tweet or use the social media sites to say, oh, hey, there's this one fence broken down, let's all go there. Well, if the police have access to these social media sites, they can see where the people are heading, and they can go there to control the violence so that the public will not be harmed as much. And they also said that for like one person alone, it takes them forever to break into a store when there's a riot. But as we can see, this isn't really true because they're burglaries and they don't include dozens of people. Not only that, but they told us how chaotic riots are and that people feel that they are in danger because during these riots they're in their homes, but they're not sure if someone's going to break their window at any moment and take their stuff. But if this is the case, then social media sites wouldn't be helpful during these riots because people would be so busy with the violence that they are wreaking, and if they're the general public hiding, then they do not have this time to go on the social media sites. And the social media sites are used preemptively in the case of riots or protests. So if the affirmation really wanted to effectively stop these protests and the violence that comes from these protests, they would instead block these social media sites before the protests occurred, because during the protests, people do not, or not protests, sorry, during the riots, people do not have time to tweet or message millions of people. And as we've shown before, social media sites are used preemptively to organize people and to send them in a certain direction. But during riots, it's too chaotic for someone to take the time to send out a tweet because, as my opponent stated, it is dangerous and they will not have the time or the safety to tweet this message out. Also, during riots, they usually tend to ignore the fact that there are, as they said, thousands of people. When there are thousands of people using the internet, it's not like the internet's going to be fast either, so that would take even longer for people to send out these social media messages to gain the attention. Now, in summary, we have shown that it is hypocritical of democracies since we tell countries that they should be doing something or they shouldn't be doing something when it comes to human rights, and especially how the United States and other Western democracies emphasize the fact that these governments cannot continue to use the excuse of public security to take away the human rights of freedom of speech and such other human rights. But at the same time, when Western democracies do this, it's hypocritical because they're using the same excuse for the same reasons. And it also worsens the situation because it stops communication between the democracies and the people, and the democracies depend on the people. Democracies place the power in the hands of the people, and when they take this away, it is no longer a democracy. And for those reasons, we negate. Thank you.
Yes, am I ready? Okay. My first question to you is that in the Arab Spring, before that, the Arab Spring, does the people have the right to protest freely, peacefully?
Before the Arab Spring?
Yeah,
Like before they started rioting?
yeah. Does the people have the right to protest peacefully before that?
Yes.
Yes, they do. Okay, thank you. And also, when we are talking about people killing, people getting hurt, and um, property being break, and can is in that situation, is public safety an excuse?
Well, it depends on how far you want to use this excuse. And in this case, we've seen in oppressive regimes and that they do take this excuse farther than it should be used.
So
And
when
because-
when it comes to control this, is it an excuse? The public safety, is it an excuse in that case?
Well, this sets a precedent that you can use it for any reason and that there aren't boundaries.
So, and which in your under your model, which other I mean, which other which other which other thing that you could bring to stop this?
Well, we're saying when you cut off social media sites, you can't effectively monitor the people, so it's even more dangerous.
Okay, so, and how long does it take to send a Facebook text message?
That depends on how good my internet access is and how fast I can type.
Okay, so, does the government has the right to protect their citizens?
Yes, but they also have a right to protect their rights to freedom of speech.
Okay,
And it's a democracy that we're talking about, and democracies depend
so
on the
is
power of
thus
the
freedom
people.
of speech absolute?
Well, it has an extent, but also the protection of public safety has an extent as well.
Yeah, okay, so you, do you mean that you can yell fire in a theater, for example? Or yell bomb in an airport? Is that right?
I wouldn't do it.
So is it right? Is that question? It's not if you're gonna do it or not. Is that right? You're trying to ignore me, or is that right?
Well, I'm not sure what this has to do with it, because when you're in a riot, you're talking directly about things that are significant.
So
to the
when riots
situation.
are turning very violent, and the government want to control this, does the government have the right to control it? The violent riots.
Well, we don't see how you can control it when you're cutting off communication between the government and the people.
So, do they have the right to control it? That's the question. It's not how.
Yes, they do, but
Thank
they're
you.
not doing it in the right way. They have to find affirmation.
Can I start? Okay. I start my speech. First, I want to review my model. Our model excluding peaceful protest against the government and peaceful riot. We are excluding this point, so the rebuttal is not standing. Please confirm this point. And I want to review the structure of this debate of our plan. First, model. Second, number two is rights are not absolute, and public safety is more important than riots. And number three, argument number three is unrestricted social media can cause riots to become extraordinarily destructive. And sub-point A is, in other words, police will work well after this plan. And sub-point B, moderate general public can live in safety. This plan enables people to go shopping, commute, eat out, go to school, even in riots. And stores can do business ordinarily. These are our number three argument. And I want to move on rebuttal. First, in negative first argument, they talked about oppressive regime and example of Arab Spring. But in Arab Spring, governments kill people just because people talked against the government. This is not Western democracies. This is not Western democracy. Their argument was completely wrong. Please confirm this point. And the subject of this plan is Western democracy. And of course, Western democracy don't have right to shut down social media in other countries. Please confirm this point. So we don't talk about oppressive regime. We are talking about internal riot and the right to shut down social media in their own countries. Please confirm this point. And next rebuttal, our negative next argument. They try to legitimate riots, but we can't admit this because people have the right to demonstration against the government in peace, in safety, but they don't have the to hold riots, which is very violent. Please confirm this point. And if demonstration, because demonstration is admitted, so they can appeal to the government by demonstration. And next. Okay, and they admitted the government has the right to protect their citizen safety. So please confirm this point. And we are encouraging people to protest against the government in peace. We are encouraging this. Okay. And next, I want to extend my argument about the right are not absolute. Riots, who join in riots are get too excited, so they don't notice that they are wrong. So we have to stop the riot and to the riot. And next, so about unrestricted social media can cause very dangerous. People, if we don't take this plan and admit the riot, people, general public get hurt and killed, and police can get hurt and killed, and stores can get hurt, killed. So and all the more, and dangerous anarchists get advantage from this riot, very dangerous, and this led to the Nazis and so on. And please confirm this point. Moderate general public can be easily involved in such dangerous riots. For example, as I said, if social media was open, ordinary general public can be involved. Let's go to the store and distract this. Very dangerous, and innocent people were involved in such dangerous riots. And next, I want the importance of this argument, importance of this debate. The real world is very dangerous during the riot, but the internet is dangerous too. Is very dangerous too. Those who join in riot come from their complaints, and those who join in riots are very dangerous people who ignores other citizens' safety. Such people are likely to attack on the internet too, like hate speech and so on. So every citizen, especially minorities, can be damaged, like Ku Klux Klan and against the gastarbeiter and the neo-Nazi. Please confirm this point. Thank you.
Thank you for your speech. And what do people who are not rioting do during riots?
Pardon?
What do people do when they're not involved in the riots?
So you want to ask who will be involved during riots?
No, like the people in their houses, what would they be doing during the riots, or the people in the streets and the stores that you're talking about?
Yeah. So they are damaged by riots. If we live in house and go out, go to school, but there is riot, I will be damaged by riots and involved in riots.
Thank you. So during a riot, you'll be walking in the middle of it, just casually?
Well, we don't want to, but we have to go there.
So,
we can't
thank
help
you.
involved.
So you wouldn't be hiding in your house, or so do people who are not involved in riots?
They can live in stay in house, but they can, as I said, they can't go shopping, commute, or eat out and go to school with me to eat.
Okay, thank you. So you're saying that they will not be involved in the riot, though, correct?
Yeah, they don't join in riot,
Okay,
but
thank
involved
you,
in riot.
Thank you. Okay. And when you block these social media sites during the riots, how much would the block cover? For example, if it was happening in one of the United States, would you block social media sites in the whole state or in the whole country?
In United States, yeah,
So you would block it in the whole country?
whole the United States.
Yes.
But United States is depend on
Okay, sorry,
each state,
but-
so I can't answer. But maybe in Japan has the right.
Okay, thank you. But
block.
so you don't know you don't know if this would cover one state or the whole country?
But each state is one of the government. So the
you-
government has the right to stop and shut down social media.
In the whole state or in the whole country?
I can't imagine the state. I don't have how much the sovereignty they have. I don't know. But Japan has.
So you're not
yeah.
taking a stance?
Huh?
So you're not taking a stance on how far your block would cover?
No. Who has the sovereignty should restrict the social media.
Okay, so it would cover the whole United States,
Yeah.
the whole country because of sovereignty.
Because if the government thinks so.
Okay, thank you. And you talked about legitimate riots. Did you
Pardon?
talk about or we wanted to clarify if you were talking about legitimate riots or not?
No, I said riots are not legitimate.
So there's no legitimacy behind it, any riots?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm the second speaker of the negative team, and first of all I would like to make a rebuttal on the speeches of the affirmatives. So our opponents show inconsistency with their model by changing the definition to actually exclude peaceful protest in the second speech when they included peaceful protest in their cross-examination. So my opponents even contradict themselves by saying people have a right to peacefully protest that the government cannot take away when in their cross-examination she clearly stated that riots can include peaceful protests. Therefore, our rebuttals to their points stand and theirs fall. So they also focus on the right of the government to protect its people, and as they said, we are focusing on Western democracies and democracies. On Western democracies and democracies put power in its people. Therefore, when social media sites and rights to show discontent with the government are taken away, it is no longer democracy. So by following the affirmation side, we are illegitimizing a democracy by making the balance of power in favor of the government, and that is clearly not right. So what we want to prove to you is the importance of these processes, and what we want to prove to you is what we want to state is that riots are actually parts of democratic processes. Another thing is that, just to clarify, that the motion states that Western democracies should have the right to block social media during riots and not before them. So what we want to say is that that blocking social media websites during riots is actually pointless. There's one major reason for that, and that reason is that if you block social media websites during riots, well, it's pointless, as I said, because damages are already happening, and they are happening inevitably. So the only way to solve this is that to block social media before those riots and only preemptively, and maybe that would have a positive impact. But what we wanted to say is that if we block social media websites like Twitter or Facebook during those riots, then we will lead to our second contention about the negative impact, because you risk increase of protests if social media websites are shut down, because that basically shows us that the government has something to hide from us, because they wouldn't do it because that's the only reason that the negative team can see. So that said, we can say that it legitimizes the cause and that the government has basically something to hide. So another thing that the affirmative team said, that they basically that people during riots basically coordinate through social media only. Well, that's not true, because if we block social media during riots, we are still going to be able to spread the news, because we still have journalism, we still have news on television, and what we're trying to say that if we follow the policy that the affirmative give us, that Western democracies should have the right to block social media during riots, well, even if they should have this right, then it wouldn't basically change that much, because the impact would be the same, because news about those riots are still going to spread in this type of society. So again, I would like to remind you of our points, the benefits that go against this motion, which is the negative impact of this, and that you risk increase of protests if social media websites are shut down, and even if rights increase, it's a democratic right. So it actually reflects the quality, A, quality, and B, quantity of this cause. So what we're saying that, again, it's simply a democratic process. Riots are simply a democratic process that maybe should happen to reach a better world. Thank you.
Alright. Okay, so we have begin? Okay, so my first question is, okay, so when people are getting killed and they're getting injured and then there's like shops being broken into, is protection necessary?
Protection is necessary, but protection from the side of the government also has its own extents.
So you're saying like the government should just leave people to get injured and to get killed and the shops should just be broken into?
They shouldn't, but we believe that fundamental human rights as freedom of speech are
Okay, so are you saying they should act or they shouldn't act? Should the government just leave these things to happen or take some kind of action?
Yes, but as I covered in the speech, if you block social media websites, that is not going to help that process.
But you do agree that the government has an obligation to protect these people in these kind of situations?
But we're talking about social media websites being blocked, and that's not going to help.
Okay, so how long does it take you to type a message?
I don't know, I'm pretty slow at that,
Okay, does it take you any more than a minute?
sometimes.
If you type, let's go break open this store, that's like 7 words, how long would that take you?
I don't know, about, not long, yeah, okay.
Okay, so then can a person, like in a riot, just find that like 30 seconds to type this message and press send?
Well, most of them are not thinking about that. Most of them are thinking about the actual
But I have
protest.
clearly explained that there is a case where a person actually messaged like 10 or hundreds of different people and then broke open a store.
Okay.
So in that situation, did that person have time to spend that 30 seconds to send the message that they want to break open a store?
Well, yeah, it depends. Well, okay.
Okay. So when we block off social media websites, what are they gonna do? Are they gonna go like door to door to gather more people?
Sorry, can you ask that?
Okay, so when we block off the social media websites, are these riots gonna go, like what are they gonna do then? What do you think they're gonna do?
Riots.
Yeah, like those, like protesters. If we shut off social media websites like this motion is proposing, what do you think the protesters will do?
They will continue to riot. And they would still find those sources of getting this information, not through social media, but through other media.
Like what?
Like I explained in my speech, like journalists or news over the television.
So you think when people are out rioting, they're gonna go watch the television?
No, but people
Okay,
still
then
do
how-
stay at home, and in order to know that there is a riot somewhere, they
Okay.
They
Okay.
can't
So
watch
let's
TV.
say there's a person who's like in the situation of a riot, and that person wants to take out his friend to come with him. Okay, if we shut off social media websites and texting, how will that person actually talk to his friend and get him to come with him?
As I explained, you've got different sources. Thank you.
Like television? Of course. Thank you.
Okay, now we're coming at a time that I'm going to summarize what was going through this whole debate. First of all, I have four things to talk about before. It's like how model, then the effect of democracy, and does how model helps, and the effect it has on people, and in what what is good for the people. Okay, so in how model, we clearly stated that we are going to shut off the social media after we see violence. So when the riots took place, this is saying that because it is when the riots take place, the police will determine which type of riot it is, if it's violent or not. So if it is violent, so they will cut off the social media. And also the effect of democracy. In our model, we are saying like it's temporary, just when the violent riot take place. And also, in democracy, people have this option, so to peaceful protest. So as we had in cross-examination that my teammate clearly explained that Gandhi, he peacefully protested against the government, the British government, and he succeed. So even in democracy, so people has the option to peacefully protest. So when they protest violently, so the government can, as we state in our model, can prevent more violence to happen. So, and how about also, does it help? Is that the question? And as we explained all through our speeches, so has opponent admit that social media should be shut off, because he explained in cross-examination that he explained in his previous speech, in the second speech, that it will be more helpful if the government shut off social media before the riots. So before the riots also leads to during the riots, as we say in our motto. So they admit that social media should be cut off during riots. So it really helps. This is what ensures our question. So now, and also we explained in our first speech that when during riots people get excited and criminal anarchists, they can do really bad things. They can drive people to murder other people. And so when the protesters can text his friend and tell him, let's go and rob a store. So if we cut off text messaging and text message and social media, so they will not find an easier way to do it. As the opponent team said, they'll find journals and television and the cross-examination. So when people are out in the street for riots, they will not buy journals or news. They will not go and watch televisions. Okay, so now the effect on people. So the effect on people, as I previously explained, that protesters will not find the way to communicate and to communicate. And also, the public safety is one of the good effect it will have on people. So this is protecting people from injury, as we explained. It also from thief and even get murdered. So the government in this case have the obligation to shut off social media during riots to prevent these people, these citizens, from getting hurted. So this is what we explained in our first speech, that rights must be balanced with other social values, which means that, and we explain how rights are not absolute, and also we we clearly explain that social values has more importance than the right, so it outweighs the right. So, and we explain how the harms that it will bring without an unrestricted riots. So it is our second contention. We say unrestricted social media can cause riots to become extraordinarily destructive. So first, without control on social media, the police get overwhelmed. And when police get overwhelmed, they panic and they can shoot at people, as we explained. And also, B. Losing control of riots has tragic consequences. So we talk of criminals and anarchists. And so controlling social media help to keep riots from being destructive. Thank you, please. We vote affirmative. Thank you.
Judges ready? Okay. So our opponents seem to look for a world where Western democracies don't fulfill their jobs. Our opponents want to live in a world where Western democracies act like autocratic regimes. However, we like to say that that is not a world we want to live in. Therefore, we oppose the resolution. So today we would like to go through some main reasons why we believe that the resolution should be opposed. So the first kind of theme that we would like to explain to you is harm. So which is more harmful, physical harm, a few buildings being ruined, or loss of democracy, a democratic government forgetting who they are and acting like autocratic a country? We believe that a democratic government losing its own system of government is more harmful. Therefore, we would like to say that the radical fundamental purpose of democracy is being weakened. And we would like to also say that the purpose of democracy is giving individuals a voice and a right to self-expression. But opponents do not cover that. In our opponents' world, their government will not just give a voice to the individuals, but just block social media sites. So we would also like to say that since the motion is particularly focused on Western democracies, losing the system of democracy is particularly harmful. And we've clearly shown you that in our side of the house, aggravation of riots will not increase because the government will listen to the citizens. Or if they don't, it actually infers that by not blocking social media sites, the citizens will know that the government is actually caring about the citizens, which we've already covered in the beginning of the debate in our first speech. So we also like to say that the purpose of democratization is being fulfilled by not blocking social media site. We'll also like to go on and talk about how protection is provided in our world and how human rights will be preserved. So they propose a model that takes away the power from the people and puts it in the hands of the government. They continue to say that public protection as a reason for blocking social media sites. And not only is the affirmation side infringing on human rights, but they're making protection harder to enforce. So in our side of the house, how are we going to protect people? So as we already stated in the first speech, the government will know it because they have access to social media. So they will know about places the riots will happen. So they will send police to protect people where the riots are going. Therefore, we believe that protection will be provided in our world. However, in their world, we don't see any protection. We don't see any human rights being preserved. So we would like to say that the motion should be opposed because of this reason also. So, and third reason why opponents are failing to explain why the resolution must be affirmed is because of the fact that our opponents continue to say that social media cut off during riots will help. However, as they already stated in the first speech, we believe that if you really want to prevent riots, you have to cut off social media before the riots happen. And that is a clear stand that we expect our honorable judges to understand, because we believe that if you really expect the riots not to happen, then you have to cut off social media before the riots happen, not during riots. And that's the part that we don't understand, because the motion is stating that during riots, the government must block social media sites, but we don't see how that works. So because of all these reasons, we would like to say that because we see that in their side of the world, aggravation of riots will happen through the government blocking social media sites, which infers that they're not listening to the citizens. And because we see that democratization is being innovated by the aggravation of riots and by loss of democracy, because democratic governments are not fulfilling their jobs, they're not giving a voice to individuals, because we also see that those who are not involved in riots will also be affected by this, as we already have mentioned. But in our world, the protection will be provided, and because of all these reasons, we would like to strongly oppose the resolution. Thank you.